easiest way to end up with the impact data that you have is to become an impact-centric organization. Because when organizations have adopted a culture of impact centricity, then they have everything they need to use data to make decisions, to have a great impactful year, to have a great impact report at the end of the year. And so when you develop these components in your organization, you will be much more successful. So the first thing that an impact-centric organization does is it uses that data, it uses that outcomes, impact data to make decisions. So they're using it in their strategic planning processes, their budgeting processes, their contracting processes, kind of their program improvement processes, quality assurance processes. And so data becomes part of the conversation. It becomes part of how organizations make decisions. So that's one key driver of an impact-centric organization. And the data that they have is not just outputs data. It's data aligned with their mission. It's aligned with the outcomes they're achieving for their customers, their clients, and beneficiaries. Another thing we find that impact-centric organizations have are they use those data pieces, especially around outcomes, to have accountability conversations with their staff. So impact-centric organizations move from compliance only to outcomes-based accountability. And let me talk about the difference, because I think the social sector has been so compliance-driven for so long that sometimes organizations don't even recognize the shift that's needed to be made. So your typical compliance-based organization is focused on how many services one delivers, or how many clients have you served this year. And that is important metrics, because obviously if we're not engaging our clients, we can't change their lives. But just because you engage a client, just because you serve a client, does not mean that you're making that client better off in a way that will help you achieve that mission statement on your walls. So for example, and I tell this story a lot, we were working with one organization that was working with youth, and they were able to engage. They got lots of referrals. They had a lot of demand for their services. So they were able to tell a good output story. They were able to talk about how many youth they were serving. They were able to talk about the different types of programming they were offering to those youth. But when they move from an output-centric organization or compliance-based organization to a outcomes or impact-centric organization, that means that they now were looking at how many of their young people were increasing their grades, how many of the youth were recidivating back into the juvenile justice system, how many people were moving towards whether it was meaningful volunteer experience, work experience, or secondary education experience. So now they're looking not just at what they do for their particular beneficiaries in their youth, they're starting to look at how are people better off because of the services they provide. And so when they're having conversations with their bosses and their leadership and their supervisors, it's not just about what did you do, but it's looking at how are you moving the needle. And so in this particular organization, they saw that they were doing a lot of work. However, their recidivism rate was much higher than they would like, meaning the youth that they were serving were going back into the juvenile justice system at a rate that was not acceptable to them. And so these accountability conversations were around why, right? And starting to look at the data, and they can start to innovate and make tweaks to their programs and see how that has changed in the recidivism rate. So in order to do that, in order to help facilitate your organization to be data-driven, to have these conversations on client outcomes, you'll need the right tools in your organization so it will make it easier to be impact-centric. Because obviously, collecting data, managing to data, that's not why you're in business, right? You're in business to increase family stability. You're in business to change young people's lives. You're in business to get people back to fully functioning. You're in business to stabilize people in their incomes or increase their incomes, give them their basic needs they need. That's why you're in business. You're not in business to collect a lot of data and use data, although I'm obviously telling you, you need to do that. So you want to make sure you have the right tools in your organization that are embedded in your organization that allow you to focus on your core mission, but yet still allow you to be data-driven. And timeliness is so key. A lot of organizations, they make the mistake of, maybe they have data somewhere living in someone's office, but no one has insight or visibility into those particular data. So they need the ability to demonstrate those results quickly. So when a funder comes or a grant opportunity comes, they can quickly pull that data, share it with their funder, but again, not deter from their core mission. That stops so many organizations in their tracks or limits the opportunities they have because they don't have that information, those insights at their fingertips that help them increase their sustainability and increase their funding.